It all begins with a firm step on the ground, indicating someone is heading somewhere. Right after, we see a young man rushing through the city streets. This is Joo In-gong, and his name literally means protagonist. His parents named him that because they wanted him to become the world's central figure. Arriving at a store, a friend greets him with a smile. The young man tells him to stop joking around and asks if the game has arrived. His friend says he was expecting him and shows him the remake of Night Saga. The story is set in a fantasy world of the war between humans and demons. In the game, you can choose to play as various heroes from the human side, or, if you prefer, you can choose to play as the powerful demon race. You can be the hero Loch or the demon king's son, Zephyr Ragnaros. Our protagonist had already beaten the game more than 10 times when he was younger. Because of that, he knew all the game's secrets and events. This new version was the first to be released for virtual reality. Arriving home, the young man goes straight to his gaming chair. He then sits down and puts on the virtual reality helmet. Carefully, the young man inserts the cartridge into the equipment slot. With everything ready, he prepares to start playing. He thinks he'll just relax and play for about 8 hours. As soon as the game starts, lights flash, and he ends up in a strange place. He wonders if he's already in the game since the character starts in bed. However, the young man notices something odd and sees that his ears are different. Looking at himself, the white-haired boy doesn't recognize that character. Suddenly, a voice calls him lazy and tells him to wake up. A giant orc appears in front of him and says he's late for an appointment. The young man is impressed by the realistic graphics, but the orc doesn't understand. He realizes he can talk to the game characters, something that wasn't announced. The orc introduces himself as Karak and asks if the boy has already forgotten him. Karak says everyone is waiting for Prince Shutra, so he needs to hurry. The young man remembers that Shutra is the 9th son of the Demon King. Even though he's confused, he tries to open the status window to see his information. To his surprise, the menu actually appears in front of him, working perfectly. Analyzing his stats, he sees they are all at level 5, which is very low. Next, he decides to check his skills and finds 2 very strange ones. One of them is called Protagonist's Buff, and he wonders if it's what he thinks it is. Karak rushes him again, and with a smile, the young man agrees to go out. Finally, the boy steps out of the tent to see what's happening outside. As soon as he steps outside, he is completely shocked by the scene. A huge army of orcs is gathered in the camp, waiting for him. He asks Karak why it looks like a battlefield, and the orc tells him to quiet down. Karak explains they need to deal with the Red Lightning tribe, leaving the prince shocked. The orc cheers him up, saying it's his first mission, but the boy desperately asks for the tutorial. They are on their way to suppress a rebellion from the Red Lightning Orcs tribe. Walking through the forest, the young prince seems quite worried about the situation. He questions taking only 10 men, but Karak says it's just a reconnaissance mission. The orc finds the prince's behavior strange and asks if he ate something bad. Ignoring the question, the boy opens the game menu to check something important. He activates the minimap and can now easily find his way through the forest. Suddenly, he notices a secret path on the map and wonders if it's an event. Meanwhile, Karak gets lost with a paper map, and the prince says that path is long. The young man then tells them to follow him because he knows a shortcut, and the orc is confused. The group of orcs follows the young prince through the forest, trusting his leadership. Everyone looks very serious as they advance through the shortcut the boy pointed out. The secret path turns out to be a dangerous climb up a rocky cliff. The physical effort leaves the prince out of breath and sweating a lot from exhaustion. Finally, they reach their destination, a giant stone gate in the middle of the forest. The gate looks ancient and weathered, with a few cracks. Karak asks how he knew about that place, and the prince denies being a mage. He feels exhausted and complains that his HP at level 1 is too low. Now, he ignores his fatigue and just waits for the large gate to open to continue the mission. Suddenly, a golden aura surrounds him, and he kneels, feeling a new strength. The boy is completely confused by what just happened to his body. A notification pops up in front of him, telling him he has leveled up. He can't believe he leveled up just by walking a bit through the forest. All his stats went up by 2 points, and he gained 2 skill points. With a slight smile on his face, he starts to understand how things work there. Karak rushes him to enter, and the prince agrees to follow him inside the gate. He thinks that he's not alone, and that the most important thing is his new skill. The protagonist's buff skill ensures he finds opportunities even in danger. As they pass through the gate, they find themselves in a dark and mysterious cave. Karak comments that the tunnel seems to have been dug by dwarves who once lived there. Further inside, they find a room full of chests and shiny weapons. The orcs celebrate the find, saying the dwarves left everything behind when they fled. While the others grab the treasures, the prince watches everything calmly with his arms crossed. He tries to pick up a sword, but error messages appear due to his low stats. The young man then decides to store the items in his inventory to use later. He points to a weapon and thinks the word store, making it glow brightly. As expected, the item goes straight into his inventory, and he confirms the system works. Suddenly, on his minimap, red dots start approaching the group. Looking at the map, the prince is surprised by what's about to happen. The prince yells for everyone to fall back, but the orcs don't understand the sudden warning. Seconds later, a sphere of energy explodes right in the middle of the group of green orcs. The powerful explosion throws the warriors away with devastating force. Several figures lie on the ground as a mysterious figure slowly approaches. Commander Kachin of the Red Lightning tribe appears, saying he was waiting for them. Without wasting any time, he orders his soldiers to attack and take care of all the invaders. The battle begins, and the red orcs charge furiously at the prince's soldiers. The green warriors are caught by surprise and are mercilessly defeated. With a sword in his hand, the young prince watches the chaos, not knowing what to do. He then thinks about landing the final blow on an enemy to gain some experience. Rushing towards the battle, he prepares to strike one of the red orcs. The boy leaps into the air and delivers a powerful blow with his sword against the enemy. To his surprise, the sword's blade shatters upon hitting the orc's body. The red orc turns with eyes glowing with anger and stares at the frightened young prince. Desperate, the boy screams and starts running to try to save his own life. The enemy stumps hard on the ground, creating a powerful shockwave. The force of the impact hits him head-on, throwing him violently backward. Lying on the ground, he sees his health drop to 15 and panics. The red orc prepares to deliver the final blow as the prince watches in terror. All he can do is scream in fear, waiting for the attack that will surely bring about his end. At the last second, Karak jumps in front of the prince to protect him from the orc's attack. The orc yells for the prince to run away as fast as possible while he holds off the enemy. He then engages in a fierce fight against the red orc to buy his master some time. With his hands trembling in fear, he tries to calm himself down, remembering it's just a game. Tired of the situation, he decides to open the game menu to quit because everything feels too real. Looking at the status screen, he desperately searches for a way out. In silence, the young man realizes something is very wrong with the game menu. Checking his skills, he notices the screen is completely empty. The boy is in shock and can't understand what happened to his skills. Looking at the menu, he realizes there is no button to log out of the game. The prince then wonders if he's really trapped inside this virtual world. Meanwhile, Kachin easily defeats all the orcs trying to stop him. The commander then gathers a large amount of energy in his hand for an attack. With a swift motion, he launches the powerful energy sphere toward the prince. With determination in his eyes, the young man yells that he can't be finished in this place. The attack hits him squarely in the chest, causing a huge impact on his body. The energy explodes in his body, injuring him badly and leaving him powerless. Lying on the ground, the boy is breathless and gasping for air after taking the hit. The enemy runs towards him to deliver the final blow and end it all. With a furious cry, the orc prepares to deliver the finishing blow to the prince. His health points reach 0, indicating he has been defeated in the battle. Suddenly, he appears in a dark, empty place all alone. The young man wonders where he is, as he remembers being attacked by an orc. With a face full of panic, he starts to think that maybe he was actually gone for good. A bright golden light shines in front of him, and he turns to see what it is. A mysterious voice says that he is the destiny of this place, and that he must conquer everything. A blonde woman appears in the light and tells him to subjugate and rule the world. The young man is completely speechless at the sight of her and her words. The light vanishes, and the boy returns to the cave, feeling a new power. Meanwhile, the fight between the green and red orcs continues without stopping. The prince's soldiers are mercilessly taken down by the more numerous enemies. Commander Kachin watches his warriors with a look of superiority. He mocks the prince's group, saying they were foolish to come with so few men. Kachin orders the final attack, but a golden aura appears around the prince. The commander is surprised by the light and wonders if it's some kind of awakening. The prince stands up with a confident smile, and Kachin asks how he did that. A system notification appears, saying he has acquired the skill psychokinesis. Confused, the young man wonders when he learned this new skill. The boy seems to have a revelation and is surprised by the new information. His status window shows a new subclass called Conquest Knight. The enemy commander points and shouts for his soldiers to attack the prince first. Surprised, Karak stammers the prince's name, unable to believe what he's seeing. The remaining soldiers rush to protect their master from the advancing enemies. Forming a shield with their bodies, the warriors try to protect the boy. Holding the broken knife, he still seems confused by the new class that appeared. He remembers that the Conquest Knight class didn't exist in the original game. Confused, he wonders why he received a class that doesn't exist. A golden energy surrounds him, and an ancient spell begins to echo in his mind. He understands that the power of conquest is actually the power of a king. He then uses the skill under the king's banner, strengthening his allies. The new skill grants a buff to all allies in a designated area. The orcs feel the power flowing through their bodies and shout with excitement. With their new strength, they charge forward, yelling to finish off all the enemies. Now empowered, the green warriors attack with overwhelming force. The tide of the battle turns, and the prince's soldiers begin to dominate the fight. In just a few seconds, the red orcs start to be defeated one by one. The enemy commander is in shock, unable to understand how they became so strong. He grits his teeth in anger and finds the whole situation ridiculous. Looking at the battlefield, he finally realizes who is responsible for everything. His eyes then turn to the young prince, who is kneeling on the ground. The enemy commander yells for them to stop and launches a magical attack with pink crystals. With a serious look, the prince faces the attack without showing any fear. Karak then jumps in front to protect his master, shattering the ground with his strength. The young man, now with new armor and a sword, faces his loyal orc companion. With a commanding shout, the boy orders Karak to advance and finish the enemy. The opposing commander watches the scene, surprised by the sudden turnaround in the fight. Desperately, he tries to ask them to wait, but it's too late to run. With a precise strike, the green warrior hits the commander's body head-on. The impact throws the enemy far away, and he falls to the ground, completely defeated. Seeing their leader fall, the red orcs begin to flee, and the prince orders his men to show no mercy. A system message appears, saying a general's merit belongs to his king. Right after, several level-up notifications appear for the young prince. He is surprised and, with a smile, wonders why his level increased so much. Meanwhile, Karak looks at his glowing hand and questions that power. The orc continues to stare at his own hand, not understanding where so much strength came from. He then turns and sees the prince watching him as if he were responsible for everything. With a confident smile, the boy confirms his loyal ally's suspicions. Back at the camp, the orcs celebrate their victory around a bonfire. In his tent, the prince searches for the exit button but can't find it in any menu. He tells himself to stay calm and starts thinking there are two possibilities for this. The first possibility is that he's trapped in virtual reality because of a bug. The second idea seems crazy, but he considers that this isn't a game, but reality. Remembering stories he has read, he thinks he might have entered a game world. Besides, everything seems too real, with perfect scenery and NPCs who can talk. Most importantly, his body is real, with no censorship or pixelation. Terrified by the idea, he wonders if he has to be defeated to get out of there. But he dismisses that idea and tries to cheer himself up by thinking that at least he's a prince. Suddenly, Karak appears at the tent's entrance and calls him for a talk. The orc stares at his master with a serious expression, saying nothing more. Outside, the warrior challenges him to a duel out of nowhere, leaving the boy confused. Karak explains that he needs to know how skilled his leader is with a sword to serve him. He then throws a wooden sword to the prince, who catches it, still surprised. The orc warrior tells him not to worry, as he will go easy on him in the fight. With a smile on his face, the prince questions if that's how you talk to a noble. The boy then says if they're going to fight, they should do it right, and charges forward. Karak prepares for the attack, surprised by his master's confident attitude. The prince tries to attack, but the orc easily dodges the blows without any effort. With weak movements, the boy strikes the orc's body but causes no damage. He even throws a rock at the warrior's head, who doesn't even flinch from the impact. With a single blow, Karak blocks the prince's sword and throws him backward. Lying on the ground, the prince complains that the hit was too hard, and Karak asks worriedly if he's okay. Suddenly, a system notification appears, saying he has acquired a new skill. He now has basic swordsmanship at level 1, which surprises him quite a bit. The young man is shocked, as he doesn't understand when he learned to use a sword. His eyes widen as he realizes a connection to a previous event. He remembers the same thing happened when he acquired psychokinesis after being attacked. Karak suggests ending the duel there, but the prince interrupts him with a smile. With a determined look, he says he's just getting started and prepares to fight again. The young man charges forward with his sword in hand, ready to test his new skill in combat. This time, he manages to block Karak's blow, who is surprised by the sudden improvement. The orc notices that his master's movements have improved a lot in a short time. The boy wonders why he's fighting better if his stats haven't increased. Now, the fight is more balanced, and the two exchange blows with their swords. With the new skill, the prince can defend and attack with more precision. He smiles and thinks that the fight has become much easier to handle now. The young man then asks what Karak's level is, and he replies that it was 21 last time. Thinking about it, the boy opens his menu and sees that he's at level 7. He believes he can reach that level in a short time, because people in this world have levels. However, unlike him, the others need a special spell to measure their level. This means he can see his stats and use points to get stronger, which is a huge advantage. The duel continues, and the prince leaps to attack Karak with his wooden sword. He can now fight on equal terms thanks to his new swordsmanship skill. With a confident smile, he thinks he can become much stronger in this world. He realizes he can become stronger than everyone else, and much faster than normal. The boy then remembers the Demon Realm arc from the Game Night saga. In this part of the story, the protagonist Zephyr defeats his siblings to become the king. The most important event of this arc is the Day of Carnage, which the young man remembers well. On that date, Zephyr gets rid of all his siblings to achieve his goals. Since he is one of the siblings, the prince knows he's also on the list to be defeated. They are currently in the year 512, and the event will happen in the year 517. He decides his priority is to prevent this event at all costs in the time he has left. Suddenly, Karak appears and asks what he's doing there alone. The orc scolds him for forgetting about today's meeting, and the prince is confused. Not understanding anything, the boy just follows his ally to the meeting place. Arriving at the tent, the young man gives a nervous laugh when he sees who is waiting for him. He greets everyone, saying they arrived early, and sits down at the table. A strong, blonde man tells him to speak normally, as they are all siblings. A blue-haired girl also greets him, as it's the first time they've met. The blonde man asks the prince to call him older brother, and the boy agrees. The two are children of the fourth queen, Elaine Moonlight, the queen of the lycanthropes. However, in the original game, Chris and Caitlin are defeated 1 year before the Day of Carnage. They fall at the hands of Zephyr and the other children of the Demon King, who see them as threats. The reason for this is the secret of Caitlin Moonlight's birth, which causes problems. The truth is that she was not the Demon King's daughter, but an illegitimate child of the Queen. Caitlin then asks why he fought instead of following the reconnaissance plan. The young man turns to answer, but his sister interrupts him before he can speak. She approaches and asks if he got hurt, worried about her brother's well-being. The girl warns him to be more careful, as he is the weakest among all the siblings. The prince is surprised by her concern and wonders if the Demon King's children are this close. The blonde brother also scolds him, and says he'll get a beating if he does something reckless again. The boy doesn't understand why they are so concerned and wonders if they are really kind. He then gets an idea, remembering that lycanthropes are known for using aura. He thinks he can learn to use aura easily if he gets hit by it, just like before. With a smile, the prince calls his older brother to make a request. With a hopeful look in his eyes, he asks his brother to hit him with his aura. The two siblings are completely shocked and speechless at the strange request. The sun rises over the camp, and the prince's request hangs in the air, leaving everyone confused. Far away in the mountains, a conflict unfolds with force and destruction. A warrior with white hair is thrown into the air by a powerful blow. On a battlefield, the figures of green and red orcs are scattered across the ground. A giant red orc spins his body and hits several enemies at the same time. His soldiers shout with excitement as they advance against a single enemy. With a powerful blow, the giant warrior defeats 2 enemies at once. Even when surrounded, he continues to fight with bravery and strength, showing no weakness. His red eyes glow with fury as he prepares for another attack. One of his allies shouts in fear upon seeing the overwhelming power of his opponent. The giant orc then slams his sword into the ground, causing an energy explosion. A commander yells not to let anyone escape and offers rewards. The green orcs charge at the enemy with full force, ready for battle. A fierce war begins in the mountains with many explosions and clashes. Back in the empty space, the prince wonders what is happening. The blonde woman from his dream appears again and says that he is definitely special. He is then surrounded by the silhouettes of mysterious warriors with powerful auras. The boy wonders who they are, as he doesn't remember these characters from the game. With the blonde woman by his side, he remains confused by the strange situation. A bright light flashes in his head, and he feels dizzy from the vision. He then wakes up in his bed and wonders if he just had a dream within the game. Confused, he touches his forehead, trying to understand what that strange dream was. Suddenly, Karak appears beside his bed and asks if he's awake yet. The prince gets scared and falls out of bed, but the orc says he seems to be fine. Karak scolds him for asking his brother to hit him and says he should have expected it. The prince just smiles, and a bright aura begins to emanate from his body. A notification pops up, informing him that he has acquired the aura skill at level 1. Karak is shocked and asks if being hit by aura can awaken one's own aura. The boy confirms the theory and also reveals that he was the one who strengthened Karak in the battle. He then asks if anything happened while he was sleeping, and Karak confirms that it did. The orc informs him that the main camp also defeated the Barak tribe, and the prince is surprised. The young man asks who was in command since the Red Lightning tribe is large. Karak reveals that General Bandel, an ogre worth 100 men, led the attack. The prince remembers that Bandel was his favorite subordinate when he played as Zephyr. With his eyes shining, he realizes this could be a great opportunity for him. In the game, Bandel only becomes Zephyr's subordinate in the year 515, so he's still available. With a confident smile, he thinks he can make Bandel his subordinate first. He knows all the general's secrets, like his favorite gifts and foods. Most importantly, to convince Bandel, you need to defeat him in a one-on-one duel. With all this information, he believes he can win the general's support. With a determined look, he decides he will make Bandel his first subordinate. Back at Caitlin's base, the prince's siblings watch the scene in shock. Chris asks in disbelief how he managed to release his aura in just 1 day. With a smug smile, The prince replies that he invested all his points in aura. He explains that aura enhances physical ability and is better than telekinesis in the long run. Chris is impressed and suggests it might be because of his Gandharva race. The brother then asks Shutra to draw a map of the tunnel they found earlier. The young man says he can't make an exact map but has a minimap and asks for paper and a pen. After some time at the camp, Shutra finally finishes the detailed map. Chris is amazed by the map, which is much more detailed than his own. With a smile he praises his brother, saying he is a true genius. Caitlin comments that they can use the tunnel to catch the enemies by surprise. She then says she needs Shutra to do one more thing for the plan to work. The prince prepares for another reconnaissance mission in the mountains. He thinks he has no choice since he's the weakest, but at least he has reinforcements. With more soldiers by his side, he feels more confident for the new mission. Suddenly, two cloaked figures appear in front of his group. The prince recognizes his sister and wonders what she is doing there. Caitlin asks for silence and explains that she will follow him secretly on the mission. She says she will only intervene if the situation gets too dangerous, as the credit is his. The boy finds it funny that his sister trusts him so much, and thinks about how to use it to his advantage. A blonde girl introduces herself as Sierra, her assistant, and the prince greets her. Caitlin tells him to focus on the mission, and the young man agrees with a smile. The group then heads to the dark cave to begin the reconnaissance mission. The group walks through the cave, and Sarah asks why the rooms are empty. The prince replies that the dwarves must have taken everything of value with them. Karak asks about the weapons they found, and the boy says they probably weren't valuable. They continue to explore the tunnels with torches to light the way. Suddenly, Karak says he feels something approaching, and the prince agrees. On the young prince's minimap, several red dots are approaching quickly. He realizes that from the number of enemies, it must be what he was waiting for. The young man opens his inventory to grab an item he prepared for the occasion. He takes out a magic light potion that he brought as a precaution. The prince then tells Karak to tell everyone to close their eyes on his signal. They prepare for combat and look towards the dark entrance of the tunnel. Numerous red eyes appear in the darkness, revealing a swarm of monsters. They were stone spiders, monsters that move in swarms and have a paralyzing venom. With a shout, the prince orders everyone to close their eyes immediately. He then throws the light potion on the ground with all his might. The potion shatters and releases an intense golden light that illuminates the entire cave. The flash blinds the spiders, which are not used to bright light. The monsters scream in pain and confusion from the sudden light that immobilizes them. The prince explains that the spiders live in darkness and are paralyzed by light. With a command, he orders all units to attack the spiders. The orcs charge at the paralyzed spiders and begin to attack them without mercy. With their weapons in hand, the warriors destroy the monsters with ease. The prince watches the battle calmly, knowing his plan worked perfectly. He opens the minimap and sees that a larger red dot is standing out from the others. The young man explains that the spiders hunt in packs, and each pack has a leader. The larger red dot on the map indicates the location of the swarm's boss spider. With a command, he calls for Karak to follow him and attack the boss. The two of them run across the battlefield, dodging the smaller spiders on the way. They advance together towards the swarm leader, ready for battle. Arriving at the location, they come face to face with a giant spider with many eyes. Karak shouts and charges with his axe to attack the giant monster. He leaps and delivers a powerful blow to the spider's carapace with all his might. The orc is surprised because his axe can't pierce the tough shell. He wonders why the spider's carapace is so resistant and hard to break. The prince remembers that the monster's weakness is fire, but he can't use magic. The giant spider growls at them, its eyes glowing with anger. The monster moves quickly, and Karak is startled by the enemy's speed. The creature prepares to attack the orc with its sharp claws and pointy teeth. The prince yells for Karak to use fire, as it's the spider's weakness, but the orc doesn't know how. Suddenly, a mysterious voice yells for Shutra to draw his sword and get ready. He raises his sword, and a golden flame erupts on the blade, surprising him. The prince doesn't understand what it is and wonders if it's some kind of magic. His sister appears with a magic shield and asks if this works for the plan. The giant spider prepares to attack, but the boy stands firm and ready. With his flaming sword, he prepares to face the giant monster. His eyes shine with determination as he focuses on the attack. The spider charges, but the prince dodges with agility and prepares for a counterattack. He spins his body and delivers a powerful strike with his flaming blade. The attack is called Burning Blade and creates a wave of fire that hits the monster. The golden flames spread across the ground, burning everything around. The prince observes the result of his attack with his sword still in flames. With the boss's defeat, he is surrounded by a golden aura of power. Several level-up notifications appear, and the boy feels stronger. He opens his menu and sees that he is now at level 9, with his stats increased. Sarah asks if he's okay and what that light that surrounded him was. The prince lies, saying it was a blessing from his race, and that it happens sometimes. The assistant then asks how he knew how to deal with the spiders, and he lies again. Suddenly, Karak calls him and points to something at the back of the cave. The group approaches and finds a giant and mysterious metal gate. White smoke escapes through the cracks in the gate, indicating something on the other side. Upon opening the gate, they enter a large room with lit torches on the walls. The prince looks around and immediately recognizes the place with a surprised expression. He realizes they are in a town portal with a glowing symbol on the floor. Karak asks if he knows what that is, and the young man lies, saying it's just a hunch. The boy notices that the portal's design is dwarven, a race that once lived there. He remembers only seeing portals like this when he played as a hero in the original game. With a glowing sphere at the center, he believes the portal is activated with magic. The prince informs his sister that it might be a portal, and she is surprised. Sierra agrees with the prince, and Caitlin asks where the portal leads. Suddenly, Karak calls the prince and points to a plaque on the wall. The boy approaches the plaque with his sister to see what is written. The plaque has an inscription in a strange language that seems to be dwarven. Karak asks if he can read it, but the prince denies knowing the dwarven language. He then asks Sarah, who also says she doesn't know dwarven script. Suddenly, the prince can read the plaque which says, Jashuka Mountain Range Portal 2. He continues reading and says the portal is connected to Portal 3. Confused, he wonders how he can suddenly read dwarven script. A system notification appears, saying he has learned dwarven script. Karak asks in surprise if he can really read the inscription on the plaque. Sierra is also shocked and asks when he learned the dwarven language. The prince says the inscription indicates that the portal works with magic. He then asks his sister to put some magic into the portal to activate it. Embarrassed, he admits he doesn't know how to use magic and needs her help. Caitlin agrees and approaches the central pillar to infuse her magical energy. The sphere on the pillar begins to glow with a strong, intense blue light. The light expands and creates a giant hologram showing the surrounding area. The group watches the holographic map of the Jashuka mountain range with admiration. The prince then points out their location in Portal 3 in a dwarven tunnel. Karak comments that this is good, as the main enemy force is at the front of the mountain. The boy decides to stop there to discuss the plan's details with his brother. Back at the camp, Chris is excited to learn about the portal's existence. He hugs his brother and calls him a lucky charm for finding the portal. The blonde man offers a reward and says he will do anything the prince asks. The boy tries to refuse, but his brother insists, saying he wants to reward him. Awkwardly, the prince thinks about what to ask for and prepares to make his request. He asks if it can be a big request, and his brother is curious to know what it is. With a determined look, the young man asks his brother to teach him the fist of the beast god. Chris is shocked and speechless at his younger brother's unexpected request. The prince then explains that his level is too low to use weapons, but techniques are different. The fist of the beast god is a powerful martial art passed down in the lycanthrope royal family. The prince thinks he can't complain if his brother refuses, as he knows he asked for a lot. To his surprise, Chris agrees to teach him, making the boy very happy. However, he warns that he cannot teach the family's secret techniques. Instead, he offers to teach the prince how to use his aura correctly. The boy remains silent for a moment, thinking about his brother's proposal. With a nervous smile, he says the offer is great to hide his disappointment. Chris then calls Shutra by his name and asks him an important question. He asks if he can consider him a younger brother from now on. The prince is surprised by the question and the seriousness in his brother's eyes. He realizes those words have a very deep meaning for Chris. With a smile, the young man thinks the offer isn't bad and accepts the proposal. They shake hands, sealing the new alliance between the brothers. Chris and Caitlin smile at their new brother with a look of trust. The prince also smiles and says they will do their best together as allies. A system notification appears, informing him that an alliance has been formed. The alliance status is still normal, but the prince knows that can change. The sun sets over the mountains, and night falls upon the camp. In the Red Lightning tribe's garrison, the orcs prepare for the night. The Red Warriors patrol the camp with their weapons in hand. One of the orcs comments that he doubts the prince's group came there by chance. He then remembers the sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade, who was captured. She is chained within a magic circle, and the orc wonders what she's doing there. The prince analyzes his stats and notices his charisma is lower than the others. He remembers that at the beginning, all his stats increased by 2 points each level. Confused, he wonders why his charisma now only goes up by 1 point per level. In the original game, appearance and charisma were two separate stats. Appearance measured the character's beauty, and charisma measured how likable they were. The boy ignores this for now and focuses on reaching level 10 soon. He remembers that in the game, Zephyr and Roke had unique skills that leveled up. The prince then believes that one of his skills will also evolve at level 10. Suddenly, Karak calls him and says everything is ready for the next mission. With a confident smile, the young man agrees and gets ready to leave with his group. They leave the tent, and the prince seems to be in a good mood for the mission. The boy and his ally leave the main tent and meet up with their soldiers. All the orcs are in formation, waiting for their leader's orders for the mission. With a commanding shout, the prince orders everyone to prepare to move out. The group heads towards the mountains to begin their surprise attack plan. They enter the cave they discovered and prepare to use the portal. Inside the dwarven tunnel, the warriors face some monsters along the way. Finally, they reach the portal, ready for the final part of the plan. Chris asks if the portal inspection is complete, and a lycanthrope approaches. The warrior confirms that the portal connects to the Zishka Mountains, as the prince said. He also ensures that the portal is working perfectly without any issues. With a satisfied smile, Chris orders everyone to prepare to go through the portal. The lycanthropes then activate the portal with their magic, and the sphere begins to glow. The light intensifies and the portal opens, showing the other side of the passage. The group watches the image of the mountains on the other side, ready to cross. The prince and Karak prepare to enter the portal with their weapons in hand. The boy is amazed to see a real portal for the first time in his life. Caitlin rushes him to enter, and the young man follows her with a smile on his face. He then steps through the portal, eager to see what awaits him on the other side. The group arrives at their destination in a rocky, reddish landscape. The prince looks around and notices that something is different about the environment. From the top of a hill, they spot a massive enemy camp below. Chris comments that, as expected, there is an enemy camp at that location. He estimates there are about 5,000 soldiers in the camp and plans an attack. The plan is to infiltrate a unit to burn the supplies while Bandel attacks. Sierra notices something strange and comments that there are few soldiers in the camp. The group realizes something is wrong and wonders where the other soldiers are. The prince becomes alert and questions if the battle has already started without them. Karak notices something in the distance and says it looks like a fight is happening. Chris teaches him to focus his aura into his eyes to see better at a distance. The prince concentrates his aura, and his eyes begin to glow with a red light. With his enhanced vision, he can see the battle and recognizes one of the sides. Caitlin says it's not Bandel's army because there wasn't supposed to be a battle today. The prince agrees and comments that the scale of the battle is too small to be the army. He sees dark elves fighting against the red orcs and is surprised. A dark elf with white hair stands out in the battle with her strength and skill. The entire group is shocked to discover that dark elves are fighting there. The prince confirms they are dark elves because they are riding drakes. Suddenly, Chris notices that the dark elves are retreating from the battle. The red orcs celebrate their victory as the elves flee quickly. The group is confused by the sudden end of the battle and wonders what happened. The prince questions the presence of the dark elves in that place. Back at the camp, the group prepares to communicate with the general. A hologram of Bandel appears, and he congratulates the group on discovering the portal. The general praises Chris's army and asks how they knew about the portal. Chris gives the credit to Shutra, and the prince says it was just luck. The boy feels safer seeing the general, and Bandel promises a reward. Bandel then asks about a small battle near the orc camp. Chris explains that it was the dark elves who joined the fight on their own. Bandel reveals they were supposed to join the army but got involved in a mess. The general then says there's a bigger problem, and the group pays attention. He informs them that the commander of the Dark Elves has been captured by the enemy tribe. The prince asks who the commander of the independent Dark Elf unit is. Bandel replies that it's someone they know very well, making the group curious. The captured commander is the sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade, his own sister. Chris and Caitlin are shocked to find out their sister has been captured. Felicia is the daughter of the third queen, Sylvia Doomblade, a former Dark Elf princess. In the game, she and her brother were part of the fourth Princess Anastasia Necrian's faction. The prince wonders what Felicia is doing there, and if she wants the credit for herself. The group then questions if the Red Orcs know the Dark Elf's identity. Bandel says he hasn't been able to confirm that important information for the rescue. Chris asks what the plan is, and the general says they will save her if they can. With a determined look, Chris says he has no intention of bowing to the enemies. Bandel agrees to gather more information and end the communication for now. The hologram disappears, and the group prepares for the rescue mission. Chris comments with a smile that their sister has been captured. He says they need to save her if she's still alive, but it won't be easy. Caitlin worries that they might get hurt in the rescue attempt. Caitlin says they must save their sister at all costs, but Chris seems hesitant. He remains silent with a drop of sweat running down his worried face. The prince notices the hesitation and wonders what's going on with his brother. With a serious look, the boy observes the discussion between the two siblings. Back at the camp, the lycanthropes prepare for the rescue mission. Chris gathers everyone to explain the plan to attack the enemy garrison. While Bandel draws the main force, they will launch a surprise attack from the rear. Caitlin and Shutra will lead their units to complete their assigned missions. The prince asks if the missions are to rescue their sister, and Chris confirms. However, he warns that if things get dangerous, they must retreat immediately. Caitlin gets angry and says they can't abandon their sister, who is family. The prince intervenes and says they can't let Felicia's selfish actions ruin everything. He realizes that Chris doesn't seem very interested in saving their sister. The boy then wonders if something happened between them to cause this tension. A boot steps on the ground, and Bandle's army prepares for the attack. With a war cry, the general orders his warriors to advance against the enemy. Meanwhile, Chris and his soldiers watch the enemy camp from atop a cliff. He looks at the tents and lit torches, planning the right moment to attack. The red orcs patrol the camp, unaware of the approaching danger. With a determined look, Chris prepares to give the signal to attack. Bandle's army begins the frontal assault with explosions and a lot of destruction. The enemy soldiers are caught by surprise and thrown into the air by the force of the attack. The general charges forward with his giant axe, ready to lead the battle. With red eyes full of fury, he orders his warriors to finish off all the enemies. On the map, Shutra's faction prepares for the surprise attack from the rear. Karek asks if they aren't going to attack, and the prince tells him to wait for the signal. The battle intensifies, and the green orcs face the enemies with bravery. Bandle's warriors fight fiercely, showing their strength in combat. The general stands out in the battle, defeating several enemies at once. With a serious look, Bandle continues to fight with overwhelming force. He then gives the signal and orders all his soldiers to retreat from the battle. From the top of the cliff, Chris observes the strategic retreat of Bandle's army. He then turns to his soldiers and orders everyone to prepare for the attack. Chris tells Caitlin and Shutra to carry out their missions as planned. With a war cry, the group advances for the surprise attack on the garrison. The remaining red orcs are shocked to see the attack coming from the rear. The lycanthropes transform into wolves and attack the enemies with their claws. Caitlin tells Shutra to be careful, and the prince says the same to his sister. The boy opens his minimap to find his way and locate the right path. He then points to the left and yells for his soldiers to follow him to the warehouse. Karek yells for his soldiers to finish off all enemies without mercy. The battle begins, and the green orcs charge at the enemies with full force. One of the red orcs screams in pain as he is hit by a powerful blow. Karek fights with bravery and skill, showing his strength in combat. He lands a direct hit on an enemy's face, who falls defeated. The prince learned the dagger, throwing skill after a previous battle. With a confident smile, he prepares to use his new skill. Karek asks when he learned to throw daggers, and the prince dodges the question. They arrive at the warehouse, and the prince prepares to follow the plan. He remembers Felicia and realizes she might get caught in the fire. The prince says they need to find their sister first, but Karek doesn't know how. The boy opens his minimap to search for his sister in the enemy camp. He knows that Felicia should be marked as blue or purple on the map. With a surprised look, he finally finds his sister's location. He then calls Karek and points the way to where the princess is. They arrive at a tent and find a hand sticking out of a wooden box. The prince enters the tent and looks for his sister but doesn't find her. He turns around and sees a female figure with long, white hair. It's Felicia, chained and kneeling on the ground with magic chains. She is surprised to see her brother and asks how he got there. The prince tells her to be quiet, as they will talk after he rescues her. He explains they need to get out of there quickly, and that she will be useful in the future. Felicia remains silent, observing her brother with a suspicious and surprised look. Outside, the prince says they need to find their other siblings. Felicia is shocked to learn that Chris and Caitlin are also there to save her. She feels awkward and tries to hide her surprise at the unexpected news. Suddenly, Karek warns that enemies are approaching and they need to flee. The prince calls for his sister to follow him, and she obeys, still confused. Felicia then asks since when he has been calling her sister, and the prince runs. Without answering, he keeps running to escape the enemies surrounding them. She yells for him to be careful, but the warning is too late. A fireball hits the prince squarely in the chest, throwing him far away. From the impact, he spits out a bit of blood and feels intense pain. Karek throws a fireball at an enemy to protect the fallen prince. The fire spreads across the ground, and the enemies back away in fear. Felicia shouts her brother's name, worried about his condition after the attack. A red orc charges furiously towards her, ready for battle. With a look of anger, Felicia prepares to face the enemy. Her eyes glow with a golden light as she readies herself for combat. An explosion of light occurs, and the orc is hit by a mysterious power. Felicia is shocked to see an enemy's body disintegrating in flames. The prince gets up with a powerful golden aura emanating from his body. He acquires the skills Magic Control and Fire Arrow at level 1. With a confident smile, the young man prepares to use his new skills. He becomes engulfed in flames and charges at an enemy with incredible speed. With a smile on his face, the boy feels excited about his new powers. He then launches several fire arrows from his hands at the enemies. The orcs are hit directly by the arrows and scream in pain from the attack. The prince laughs with excitement as he realizes he can use real magic. He then fires a giant fire arrow at an enemy with a smile. Suddenly, an ice attack appears out of nowhere and freezes the battlefield. The boy wonders where that ice came from and looks for the one responsible. An enemy archer aims an ice arrow at the prince. The young man realizes the archer is aiming at Felicia and gets worried. He runs to protect his sister and pushes her away from the attack. Felicia is shocked by her brother's action and calls him by his name. Several ice spikes emerge from the ground, preparing to hit the prince. He faces the ice spikes with a determined and fearless look. With a smile on his face, the young man decides that power will be his. He then uses his magic and destroys the ice spikes with an explosion. The prince is enveloped in a cold mist and acquires a new ability. He learns Ice Arrow at level 1, as expected, and smiles with satisfaction. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain and falls to the ground with a dagger in his chest. He falls to the ground, feeling his life slipping away in unbearable pain. A notification warns that his health has dropped drastically, and he is in critical condition. He grits his teeth in anger and calls himself stupid for letting his guard down. Felicia approaches with her arms crossed and a disdainful expression. She asks who asked him to save her, and the prince is confused. His sister calls him weak and says he has no right to save anyone. The boy realizes she is misunderstanding everything and gets worried. She then asks when he learned to use magic and points to the archer. The prince realizes she took care of the mage who attacked him from behind. With a dagger in her hand, she suddenly attacks him, and he screams in pain. The boy is confused by his sister's actions and doesn't understand the reason for the attack. A bright green light emerges from the wound and begins to heal him quickly. The light envelopes his body, and his wounds start to close instantly. The wound in his chest heals completely, leaving only a tear in his clothes. He acquires the healing skill at level 1, and his wounds heal in an instant. Felicia asks if he's feeling better, and the prince confirms that he is. She stares at him, confused, and the prince notices she's acting strangely. Suddenly, a giant red ogre appears in the middle of the battle with a roar. Felicia explains that it's a blood ogre, a rare and powerful mutation. The prince despairs, realizing they need to defeat the monster to escape. With a face full of panic, he wonders how they are going to fight.